to Team Sensory.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. First of all, thank you for inviting us here today. For those of you who don't know, we are SuperSense. We are a multidisciplinary design team from Pittsburgh as well. Parita Kapadia is a designer and former food critic. Mark Choi, in his former life, was chief buyer of mood design fabrics in New York City, which you've probably seen on Project Runway. And I am a Chanel perfumer by trade. But now we all work at a design firm. In case you couldn't tell by our names and our descriptions, our underlying goal throughout all of our designs is to create an experience for the user involving as many senses as possible. In this case, it would be the book. The book right now can be a mechanism for time travel. We use some books to transport us to another place, another environment, or to give us a completely different perspective on that which we already find familiar. But what brings us to this place? Our eyes will scan across lines of words, just like the ones I'm reading now, and through the power of those words, we can be sailing the ocean or hiding in the jungle. We can travel the world or several fantasy worlds just by turning the page. It's a lot of power, but also a lot of responsibility on the part of the author. Our eyes are the vehicle and our words are the road, but what if the vehicle was just a little bit bigger? I want you to take a moment and think about what's engaging you in this presentation right now. You can hear my voice. You can see our team. We had visuals behind us in the previous group. But do you notice the smell of the room? Do you feel the cushion under your chairs? Do you feel the surface of the pen that you're twirling in your hand? How different would you feel about the topics today if the room were, say, 100 degrees, or the person next to you forgot to put on deodorant this morning? Whether it's conscious or unconscious, your mind is constantly capturing all of this information, and when you leave, it will contribute to your opinion on the experience. Robin Williams said it perfectly in the movie Good Will Hunting, when he sat down with an MIT prodigy and he said, "If I asked you about art, you'd probably give me the skinny on every art book ever written. But I can bet you can't tell me what it smells like in the Sistine Chapel." So what if we could bring that other sense, that other smell of the Sistine Chapel, closer to the reader's experience? Think of your favorite childhood book. Think of the story, and now think of the other memories that surround it. Can you remember where you read it, if you were sitting in the lap of your mother or father? Do you remember the smell of the pages? Do you remember the texture of the paper? You see, we know those other senses are active when we are reading. So why not redirect those other senses to become more involved with the story? We believe that by capturing the attention of more than just your eyes, it will help bring you closer to what you're reading. We want to make the act of time travel more complete. And we're about to show you some examples of how that works.
So while my team gets ready, I'm going to read an excerpt from Fahrenheit 451. Your silence was perfectly planned. The sun burnt every day. It burnt time. The world rushed in a circle and turned on its axis, and time was busy burning the years and the people anyway, without any help from him. So if you burnt things with the firemen and the sun burnt time, that meant that everything burnt. Okay, now you might have got a whiff of wood burning, the scent of wood burning, and as Professor Dangoreski is doing, and which hopefully help translate you closer to the reading experience of being able to smell something that's flying off the page. If you don't believe me, you can try reading this passage again tomorrow and see if you have the same experience. But what if instead of smell, we activated your sense of touch, and the temperature of the book that you're reading started to change? What if instead of this version of Into the Wild, you read that version of Into the Wild? Imagine yourself reading her version of the book and reading a passage from that. I dug a shallow hole, wrapped myself in the busy bag, and sat on my pack in swirling snow. Drifts piled up around me. My feet became numb. A damp chill crept down my chest from the base of my neck, where spin drift had gotten inside my parka and soaked my shirt. If I only had a cigarette, I thought, a single cigarette, I could summon the strength of character to put a good face on this fucked up situation. On this whole fucked up too. I pulled the bivy sack tighter around my shoulders. The wind ripped at my back. Beyond shame, I cradled my head in my arms and embarked on an orgy of self-pity. How was that? Just think about it. If you actually had a cold book in your hand, and if you were able to use your other senses, what would the book reading experience be? How much better could it be if you were activating even more senses?
So we've heard an example of smell and we've heard an example of touch. But what about taste? What if we had the text of Hansel and Gretel printed on a pack of Pringles? So instead of snacking in front of the television, a child could indulge in Pringles, read piece by piece, and munch along. The order of flavors could match the narrative arc. So as the reader notices that the old woman is actually the wicked witch and she's going to eat Hansel and Gretel, the flavor gets spicier. And of course at the end, when they reunite with their father and it's a happy ending, it could be celebrated with chocolate-coated Pringles. Sure, you can't revisit this piece like you could with a paper book, but consuming a story this way would definitely make for an engaging experience. And I guess what we're saying is that a book doesn't have to be a stash of printed paper bound together, but a book to us is anything that holds inside it an engaging story for the audience to unravel, for the reader to unravel.
If I die, it's your fault. Okay, thank you very much, you guys.